Hello and welcome to Supposedly Fun. My name is Greg and I am here today to do a Friday Reads video where I wrap up the week in reading, talk about any exciting bookish things that have been going on. And it's been a minute because I didn't do a Friday Reads last week because of the Thanksgiving holiday in the United States. If you celebrated, I hope you had a really great time. We did. It was really nice. Our foster son came and we hadn't really seen him or spent time with him in a while. That went nice. So hopefully things are looking good there. We'll see. But also it was just a really great holiday. Lots of good food. It's a weird holiday because of the origins and all of that stuff, but I get stuck because I like the holiday and the togetherness and mostly the food. Joel made a pithivier with the leftovers, and if you don't know what a pithivier is, Google it. Pithivier. We learned about it on Bake Off, of course. And it was delicious, absolutely delightful. So I'm never going to not like Thanksgiving because I am that food person. But it was fun. Hope you had a good time if you celebrated as well. If you don't, I hope you didn't really miss the Friday Reads last week because there has been a lot of content that has been getting churned out because it's that time of year. There's a lot going on. Best of lists, Booker was announced, all of that stuff. So hopefully you didn't really miss the Friday Reads too much. I also wanted to bring this up because the videos that have posted over the last week are usually the biggest videos every year on my channel, and this year is really no exception to that. It's the Washington Post's top 10 books of the year, the New York Times 100 notable list, the New York Times top 10, the Booker Prize winner reaction. All of those usually are the biggest videos in a single year on my channel, and that is kind of bearing out this year, although nothing will top the 25 best books of the last 25 years. That one was just unpredictably large and wow. But yeah, so it's been a busy week. The reason I'm bringing that up is if you have left a comment recently and I have not responded to it, I'm sorry. There has been a deluge of new subscribers. If you're new, hi, welcome. And there has just been a flood of comments, and I've been doing my best to keep up with them, but it's a lot. So if you have left a comment and I have not responded, I'm sorry. I am trying to swim upstream and catch up to some of the ones that fell behind, but I don't know if I will. So I apologize if I missed something. It's just that there's been a lot going on. The other thing I should mention really quickly for people who are new here, again, hi. I had a big subscriber influx earlier in the year, and some people didn't quite like the chatty portion of Friday Reads. They wanted just the information about the books. So what I started doing, because I like the chatty portion, and a lot of other people do as well, I did start putting a timestamp in the description box down below. So if you don't like the chatty part, you can jump to the Friday Reads. So feel free to exercise that option if you would prefer. A couple of other things I just want to note before we get into the Friday Reads. I don't know yet. There might not be a Friday Reads next week. And the reason, not that you need to know this, is just that, to be perfectly honest, I have a mole on my eyelash, on this eye over here. You can't really see it. It's not that big. But because it's in my eyelash line, it's irritating my eye a lot. And I need to get it removed. So that's happening on Thursday of next week, and I don't know what my face is gonna look like. And also because that's happening on Thursday, it might interfere with timing purposes. So there might not be a Friday Reads next week. I might try to film one on Wednesday. We'll see how everything goes. But just FYI, if there's no Friday Reads next week, that is exactly the reason why. And also, I fully admit I'm feeling a little burnt out from just churning out videos. The New York Times 100 Notable came out, and then they put the top 10 books out really quickly. And the structure for those was a little different. So I've had to film and quickly turn around a lot of videos over the last 2 weeks. So I think I am going to take a weekend off. And then next week, I will probably regroup. Maybe I'll try to film a video on Monday or Tuesday and have it scheduled for Thursday. And if it's looking like I'm not going to be doing a Friday Reads, I'll try to have something scheduled for then as well. So we'll just see how things go. And the only reason I wanted to bring that up is because there might not be a Friday Reads, and because depending on how quickly that heals, you might notice something. They assured me that it will all be fine and everything will recover quickly. But yeah, who knows? We will find out. The other two things that I wanted to mention before jumping into the Friday reads, because we have 2 weeks of book reading to catch up on. However, I didn't read a lot over the Thanksgiving holiday. I really anticipated that I would, and Teddy just walked in. So I'm very scattered today, if you can't tell. Come here. Come here. Let's see if I can get him to come up. I think I'm going to have to go pick him up. Bear with me a second. I got him. Here's Teddy. There's your Teddy fix for today. So he has been in the backyard patrolling for squirrels, as he is wont to do. And I couldn't get him to come inside and settle to be in my Friday Reads video, which is the only reason that you didn't see him in the beginning. But here he is. And I figured, since it's getting cold, we're starting to head into potentially snowy weather, I should let him enjoy the backyard and chasing squirrels, which he absolutely loves, while he can, because it'll be super cold before you know it. But he's doing really well. He had a great Thanksgiving, and he was such a good boy with all of the company, very patient. You know, Guinness had no chill, so when people would come into the house, he would start jumping on them and like aggressively be like, "You're going to say hello to me." And Teddy is very polite. Teddy would kind of make it known. It's like, "I would like to say hello to you, but you seem a little busy right now. You're carrying something, so I'm going to wait. And you're just a good boy. You're just a good boy." And he continues to be an absolute joy. Today is actually, as I'm filming this, our 2-month anniversary with Teddy. And he's been getting comfortable in the house, which has been really good to see. And we just love having him, and I'm glad that other people have enjoyed having him as well. A lot of people have commented on how nice it is to hear dog feet in the background of my videos, and I actually really love that too, because it was a signature of Jamie's, and it is something that I had been missing since we lost her back in August. So very good to have Teddy. So back to the rest. I have had a little bit of a situation just with the holidays coming. It's not that big a deal. 2 people have said something to me, and it's only 2 people is not a lot, but it kind of gets in your head with the holidays. So I figured I mentioned it on Threads actually, and a lot of people responded to it. And it just showed to me that it is something that a lot of people also struggle with. I'm not the only one. So I figured I'd mention it in a Friday Reads as well. And that is that, so I don't talk about this very much, but I have actually not spoken to one of my parents in almost a year and a half. There has been communication since, like when I had to go back to New York last December for my sister's wedding. Obviously, I saw that parent there. There was no reconciliation, and things like that. But so I have not been speaking to one of my parents for a year and a half. And it is the product of many years of stress and anguish, and trying to first fix the problems that existed, and then sort of pivoting, because clearly that was not going to happen. My father just did not want to fix the problems that we were having in our relationship. And that's why there was no reconciliation in December as well, because he would rather pretend everything's fine and keep moving forward and continue with the problems as well. And I can't do that. And I'm not trying to get into an explanation, just to say that it's a product of years of anguish. So I pivoted to trying to create healthy boundaries and say, okay, well, I can't have you in my life hardcore. Let's just create some boundaries so you can exist in different spaces. And he wouldn't accept that. So it became like an all or nothing situation. And one thing that I think Teddy's falling asleep. He's been chasing squirrels too hard. It's really cute. But so me not talking to my father is the product of years of trying and failing and things not working. And one thing I kept saying to myself for years was, if this was anyone other than my father, I would have stopped communication years ago. This is someone I wouldn't even be friends with if they weren't my father. And then what I eventually started to realize is, why? Why am I putting myself through all of this pain? Why am I putting Joel through all this pain? Because it's my father and I feel obligated. And because other people tell me that this is something that I should put up with in my life. And when I stopped communicating with my father, I really felt better. And I don't know that is the way it will always be. There was a point in my life where I wasn't communicating with my mother. And now I do, and have a healthy relationship with her. We just can't talk politics because we disagree on politics. But, maybe this isn't the way it will be forever, but it's definitely the way it is right now. The reason I bring this up is that twice over the last 3 weeks, people have asked, how's your father? And I have said, the first time I said, I think he's doing okay. Here's what I've kind of heard. And they were like, well, what do you mean you think he's doing okay? And I explained. And both times it came up, I got that, well, you really should talk to your father because, you'll regret it when he's gone. And not a good reaction. I'm sorry, I'm laughing now because I can't get over how he just fell asleep sitting up in my lap. It's adorable. Absolutely adorable. I hope you can hear the snoring. It's just really cute. Anyway, so the point is, and the thing I posted on Threads is just PSA for the holidays and for any time really, because this is a problem that exists well outside of the holidays. If somebody tells you they are not speaking to a parent or have not been speaking to a parent, don't tell them you're going to regret it when they're gone, because you have no idea what they went through to lead up to that decision. It's not an easy decision to cut a parent out of your life. Some people do it for bad faith reasons. Some people do it just because they get angry and, maybe there were better options. Maybe they didn't really try to work it out. Point is, you don't know what they have done or have not done. So assume that they made this incredibly difficult decision with the best intentions, and don't try to make them feel guilty, because a lot of people try to make them feel guilty. And I've learned on my channel, people have appreciated when I talked about struggling with grief after we lost Guinness and struggling with anxieties and things like that. So I figure other people go through a lot of the same things and it's worth acknowledging them. So I figured I'd bring it up here just because a lot of people resonated with the message on Threads. I figure a lot of people could resonate with the message here. If somebody tells you that their relationship with their parent is broken, don't just tell them that society thinks they should continue trying to maintain a broken relationship. That's not helpful. It's not helpful at all. And it's not good to try to just make someone feel guilty when they've been trying. For all you know, take them at their word. That's it. And don't try to make people feel guilty. The holidays are hard enough. Life is hard enough. And people don't make decisions like that lightly, in my experience. I know I didn't. So that's that. And I didn't think Teddy was going to stay, let alone fall asleep. So I'm going to see if I can do this without... Oh, he's lying down. Yeah, he's lying down. So that'll make it a little easier to pivot. The other thing I wanted to mention before we get into the Friday reads is just a thank you. So in some of those recent videos that really get a lot of attention every year, I had mentioned really wanting a copy of The North Woods. I want to especially shout out 3 people, Julia Berg, Stacey Payne, and Tara Vincent, who were generous. One of them called in a gift to Montana Book Company. One of them called in a gift certificate to Montana Book Company. And, their generosity meant that I now have a copy of the physical copy of North Woods, and I have additional money to spend at Montana Book Company. So really just wanted to say thank you to them. It was completely unexpected, completely delightful. So I wanted to give them a shout out in a Friday Reads video and say thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't wait to read this. I can't wait to get the other books. And it was just really nice because obviously I'm happy to have North Woods and money to spend, but it also supports Montana Book Company, and I just absolutely love that. However, I also want to say this is not like a PSA telling people that you should do that. No, the holidays are hard enough. Finances are really tight. That's kind of what we're dealing with right now. So, this is not like a PSA saying to other people to do the same. I just want to thank these 3 people, and there's no expectation for anything like that. But it was just such a kind gesture that I really had to mention it. The other thing that was really exciting, and this is kind of a bonus because I have it here. If you follow along, I am obsessed with the Pulitzer Prizes, and I have been collecting hardcover editions of Pulitzer books for my shelf, which is over there. They are all kind of living together. Actually, I redesigned things recently. I talked about that in my biggest book haul ever, and I didn't point this out, but so let me see if I can move this up. I reorganized the top of my bookshelves. So I have I've been collecting hardcovers of the Pulitzer books, which meant I have extra paperback copies that in many instances I want to hold on to because either they're pretty or some of them are editions that I can actually read. Like I have a hardcover Franklin Library edition of Laughing Boy on that shelf, but I don't always feel comfortable reading the Franklin Library edition, so I have a paperback of Laughing Boy, and when I get around to that for the project, that's the copy that I will read. And that's what a lot of these are. Like Beloved, I've already read, really want to keep that copy, but I have a hardcover over there. So I created a sort of Pulitzer overstock for the paperbacks here, and that makes me really happy as well. And the reason I'm bringing this up is one of my white whales for the hardcover shelf has been The Color Purple. And over the Thanksgiving holiday, I saw an auction for a copy of The Color Purple. It started at $1.99, and I figured, well, you know, there's no way this is going to stay at $1.99, but I'll throw my hat in the ring. The bidding did go up, and it got a little more expensive, but it's still way more affordable than any other early hardcover edition of The Color Purple out there. So this arrived in the mail today, and I am freaking out about it. I'm so excited. I am going to be rereading the book before the movie adaptation of the musical comes out. And I have a paperback on my Pulitzer shelf right now that I will be. That's actually, the paperback is the one that I read when I first read that book like 20 years ago. But I'm so happy to have this. And, you know, PSA, if you like collecting books but can't really afford a lot, like a lot of the Franklin Library editions, you can find very expensive versions. But if you keep watching online, you can find them within your price range. And that is ultimately what happened to me with The Color Purple, because this is a book that is ridiculously expensive if you just look for copies of it in hardcover. And this is not this is a first edition third printing, and first edition first printings are the ones that are exorbitantly expensive. So I'm thrilled to have this in my library. Let's move into the actual Friday Reads portion of the video. Teddy is trying to get comfortable in my lap, but he's very sleepy right now. You've been chasing too many squirrels. I know it. Do you want to go down? Do you want to go down and nap? I don't know. Let's see how long he lasts in my lap. So let's go to the Friday Reads portion of the video. I finished 3 books since the last time we spoke. And that's not great because, you know, I didn't do a Friday Reads video last week. So you would think maybe I had accomplished more. But it was a holiday weekend. There was a lot going on. We actually went to Montana Book Company on Friday. It had never occurred to me to go to Montana Book Company on Black Friday because I'm so anti-Black Friday that it never occurred to me to do a small business on Black Friday. But I was chatting with Charlie, one of the owners, on Thanksgiving because I wanted to say Happy Thanksgiving, and they pointed out if we had gone on Small Business Saturday, they probably would have just been able to wave and say hi, and then they'd have to work because they're incredibly busy. It's their busiest day of the year. And Joel and I woke up on the Friday after Thanksgiving and just said, do you want to just go today? So we went, and we were able to have conversations with them. We hung out for like an hour in the store. It was lovely. And yeah, it never occurred to me. So who knows? Maybe that'll be a new tradition. But anyway, point being, didn't have as much time to read books as I had kind of thought I would. So the first book that I finished since the last time we spoke was Whose Body by Dorothy L. Sayers. This was recommended to me a lot over the years, and particularly since I did a video about Time Magazine's 100 Best Mysteries and Thrillers. And people have frequently recommended it to me because I like those classic whodunit style mysteries. And this was slightly successful and slightly unsuccessful because I'm not sure I like a Lord Peter Wimsey, who is he's not a detective, but he is the person doing the investigating. He's basically a rich person who has a hobby of investigating crimes. And I'm not sure I like him. I'm willing to read another book and continue trying. I think the main issue that I had with this book, if you can call it an issue really, is that when I think of a classic whodunit, I think of a group of people getting together in one location who all have a motive to commit murder, and then the murder occurs, and someone has to investigate and get to the bottom of what happened. And you spend a lot of time speaking to all of the different suspects, and that is not the format or structure of this book, in a way that is refreshing, and in a way that's a little bit frustrating because the suspects of the crime are very much at a remove in this book. And I think that sort of interaction and investigation is actually what I really enjoy about a classic whodunit. So the premise of the book, if you're unfamiliar, is pretty much literally the title of the book. And basically, a man gets up in the morning, he goes into the bathroom to get ready for the day, and there's a dead body in his bathtub. He has no idea who the guy is, how he got in there. The window in the bathroom was open. And Lord Peter Wimsey begins to investigate because this man has a sort of vague connection to his mother. And there's a sort of separate mystery. So he starts talking to a police officer who is investigating a separate crime where a man has disappeared. At first, they think that the man in the bathtub could be that man, but is not. And they start helping each other out with their investigations, and they're kind of wondering if they are going to intersect. That's the basic premise. I think it would have been a lot more fun if you got to spend more time with the suspects, and you don't. It's very much just the detective and Lord Peter Wimsey going about their investigation. I think I just kept wanting it to be that sort of classic whodunit where you have a bunch of people who were in a room and the big cast of suspects. You don't really get to know the suspects very well in this at all. So I will probably try another one. It might probably be a while because I got lucky and found this at a used book sale in Missoula. Check out my massive, biggest ever book haul if you want more information about that. But I just happened to find this there. It's very hard to find used copies of her books. So I'll probably just hold off until it shows up. I could probably get one from the library, but it's going to be a while. But so I think I'm going to trade this one in at my local used bookstore since these seem to be mysteries that are highly in demand for them. I don't think I liked it enough that I would collect the entire series. Maybe I should hold on to it until I read the second one just to be sure. So I'll hold on to it for now. And I'll continue in the series, but I'm not going to be in any rush to do so. The next book that I finished over the last 2 weeks was The Talk by Darrin Bell. He was the first Black man to win a Pulitzer Prize for editorial cartoons, and this is a memoir about his life. And it opens and closes with The Talk. If you're unfamiliar with The Talk is where a Black relative of a Black child has to have a conversation with them about how to stay safe. And the book opens with his white mother telling him that she doesn't want to buy him a water gun because she is concerned that the police would see him with a water gun and not give him the benefit of the doubt, assume he's up to bad things, and something could happen to him and they could easily say, well, we thought that was a weapon. So she has the talk with him. He doesn't believe her, and he attempts to talk to his father about it, and his father shuts down the conversation and does not have it with him. And then in the end, he has to have the talk with one of his sons, and he reflects on that almost desertion from his father about not having the talk and what the talk has meant for him throughout his life, because of course he doesn't believe his mother at first, and then he constantly sees evidence that she was right throughout his life and ways in which he is treated differently because of his race and compared to other people. And there are horrible instances where even a professor accuses him of plagiarism, but can't tell him what he is supposed to have plagiarized, and basically is just telling him there's no way you wrote such a good paper. You can't possibly be that smart or literate. And it's not great. So it's a really great book. I would absolutely recommend it to you. I got it from the library, so I had to return it, which is why I don't have a copy to hold up. But it was a really fantastic, I'd say a 5-star book for me. I do love a graphic memoir, so it really ticked a lot of my boxes, and it's a very eye-opening book. And if you haven't experienced something like that level of racism, which obviously I have not because I'm a white man, it is very eye-opening, and it is infuriating to hear about the ways he has been treated. And I would absolutely recommend the book. It was pretty immediately available from my library, so I would recommend, you can look for a copy or go through the library like I did, because I think more people should read this book for sure. So PSA, The Talk is absolutely wonderful, and I would wholeheartedly recommend it to you. So the only other book that I finished over this little break from Thanksgiving is A Council of Dolls by Mona Susan Power. And I thought I started this right before Thanksgiving, and I actually only finished it yesterday as I'm filming this, because with everything going on during Thanksgiving week, I was also kind of sleep deprived and frequently felt too tired to absorb what was happening in the audiobook. So I ended up putting it off a little bit and really only got into it this week and finished it yesterday. This is the book I sort of delayed filming by one day to make sure I finished. I thought it was important to read it on Thanksgiving week because, again, Thanksgiving is a bit of a weird holiday. It has these colonial origins, And although I do love the holiday, I have conflicted feelings about the history of what it means, what the truth of it is, and all that. So it felt like an important book to read in Thanksgiving week, especially with November being Native American History Month. So I wanted to read a Native book by a Native author. Now, one thing I will also say, and this is where it's a little difficult to navigate with Teddy on me, but we're making it work. If you have read and enjoyed The Yield by Tara June Lynch, which I really loved when I read it a couple of years ago, you will love A Council of Dolls by Mona Susan Power, or at least you'll find it interesting. I think The Yield is a better book. It's a hard comparison. And obviously, The Yield deals with Indigenous life and the things that have been done to Indigenous people, however, in Australia. And A Council of Dolls deals with the same topic, but in the United States. However, there are incredible parallels between the books. So I would absolutely say, if you have loved The Yield, check out A Council of Dolls. And if you haven't read The Yield, read The Yield, for sure. Because it is very much about language and how language is taken from you and your culture is taken from you. That is something that is a huge theme in The Yield. You have 3 generations of women in A Council of Dolls, and each of them has a doll that they have a sort of mystical relationship with. There's power in these dolls that gets sort of teased out. And I will say it can be a bit of a weakness, because when it's a little difficult to explain what's going on with the dolls, it doesn't even attempt to. But I can go along with that. But so they have each of them has a doll. They have a mystical connection to it, and things happen, and sometimes the doll protects them. It's kind of interesting, and I don't want to talk about that part too much, but so you have a girl who is growing up, and her mother is this very violent, volatile presence in her life, and then it flashes back to when that mother was a child, and it turns out she was very sensitive, intelligent, introspective, and you sort of see how she turned into that person who has had experienced trauma to such a degree that she is no longer that sort of sweet, sensitive person that she was. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that she was sent to an Indian boarding school. And if you're unfamiliar, Indian boarding schools are places where Native people were sent in the United States, and actually in other countries. I believe they had them in Canada as well. They had them to a degree in Australia. And basically, their culture was erased from them in order to make them civilized human beings. And it flashes back as well to the grandmother of the original character and tells her story. And she is sort of existing in the time right after Sitting Bull and a lot of that. So it's 3 generations of women. It talks about the generational trauma and a little bit about breaking free of that trauma in the final section, and finding ways to heal and connect with your heritage and your past, and not allow these cycles of violence that have been inflicted on you and your family to exist, or to continue to exist. And it's really beautiful in that. Again, I think The Yield is a better book. However, Council of Dolls, I would say, it is very urgent. It is very well done. I really appreciated the themes of trauma and moving on and healing. It felt like a beautiful book. It resonated very powerfully with me, for sure. So I would recommend it. And then I finished that yesterday. I have not started another audio. I think I know what my next audio will be, but I don't want to commit to it until I actually start it. So I'm still trying to navigate all of this with Teddy on my lap, trying to sleep. I started the Heaven and Earth grocery store. Really did not make a whole lot of progress until this week, because again, I should have anticipated that the weekend after Thanksgiving was going to be super busy. But I started the Heaven and Earth grocery store by James McBride, and I've been moving very slowly through it. I think I'm only about 140 pages in, but I'm really liking this book so far. And it talks about community and care and immigration and the othering of people in very interesting ways. And I'm really responding to it. I was a little nervous because this does feel like Deacon King Kong in certain ways, which I didn't quite get along with. But I listened to Deacon King Kong on audio, and I think it has such a big cast of characters that I had trouble. As much as it fanned out, I started having a little bit of difficulty, and the story started feeling a bit muddy to me. So I felt like print would be better. And so far that's bearing out. But it almost feels like Deacon King Kong. And I hate to diminish Deacon King Kong, because there are a lot of people out there who like it. And it is a good book. But it feels like Deacon King Kong was sort of like a trial run for the Heaven and Earth grocery store, and this is like a fully realized version of that sprawling community of characters in a very beautiful and intelligent way. The way they share stories and secrets is very interesting so far, and the way things, like in the beginning, for one of the Jewish characters, he hears an explosion in the distance, and then a couple of chapters later, you meet a boy who lost his hearing in an explosion, and everything sort of connects within this community, even if the characters don't know that it does, and that's really interesting. So I am loving this book so far, and I'm looking forward to getting further into it. We'll talk more. Hopefully I'll be able to do a Friday Reads next week, and hopefully I'll be able to make a lot of progress on Heaven and Earth grocery store over the weekend. But I'm going to leave it at that for now, and I'm going to let Teddy take a nap. Right? You've earned a nap. You've been chasing those squirrels so hard. But anyway, as always, I appreciate your time. I'd love to hear what you've been up to for the last 2 weeks and reading and loving. The Bake Off finale we got access to it the day I'm filming this, and we are going to watch it tonight. I will say, no spoilers, I was really upset by who went home last week. The person who went home last week is the person that I had wanted to win the whole season. And obviously that is not going to happen anymore, but we'll see what happens. It's been a good season of Bake Off, and it will be over tonight. So as always, I really appreciate your time, and I will be back. Until next time, happy reading.